The Honourable Brian Walker.
Thank you, President. Now, members will perhaps have remembered the earlier contribution I made regarding the science of CBD and fish. How could you forget? And it's a part of my move just now is to bring more science into the debate, because, you see, I am a man of science. I'm a medical practitioner, of course, and I'm very concerned that what I'm putting across actually has, as the Germans say, hand and foot. It actually exists. One of the problems that people constantly mention to me as a doctor is, oh, cannabis can cause psychosis. And it's a very real concern, because if you're recommending, as a doctor, something which might make you sick, then it's not a good idea. It's not a bad look for a doctor to recommend giving bad things, like, for example, opiates for pain, which can kill people, of course, but it's just normal. So here we have, I know, isn't it strange? But so I was very, very pleased to get some actual science on the relative risks of cannabis. You see, because this is a paper that I will seek leave to table when I finish speaking, but this looks at the comparative harms. Now, I've always said that you can always misuse cannabis, and that's a very important thing to state. Having actually the plan to go into the bar this evening and maybe have a glass of wine or gin and tonic, the question is, how much harm is that doing? It's quite normalised for us. But then we look at cannabis and we think, oh, this is dangerous. Are we actually looking at facts, or are we looking at prejudice? Because if we're looking at prejudice, then we are not doing ourselves any favours at all. We need to be factually based. And this lovely paper comes out here, which looks at the comparative harms assessments for cannabis, alcohol and tobacco, risk for psychosis, cognitive impairment and traffic accident. Now, I'll segue into my time as a psychiatrist when in the hospital, the wards in the hospital, 95% of the residents of that hospital ward, or the hospital wards, were heavy smokers, and indeed heavy consumers of coffee. Now, for me, coffee is an essential ingredient to life, although I'm a passionate anti-smoker. Studies later showed that when you reduce or stop cigarette smoking, the need for medication for your psychosis goes down, and we've got much better response to medication. This is interesting. This paper here actually shows that there's actually the relative risk of developing psychosis for moderate cannabis users is 6 times the background. But it also showed that if you're a regular use of, say, 10 cigarettes a day, the relative risk for you is 6.1. Now, we could debate that. Are we looking really at a danger, or are we looking here at a predisposition that you're managing with cannabis, or indeed tobacco? Well, we could settle that with a drink, you see, and discuss that, but the relative risk for alcohol for developing psychosis is 6.5. So we're looking here, these are the facts we're looking at here from a long-term, very good study, and what I'm asking here is to consider, are we really dealing with facts, or are we dealing with the misperception of facts or the misperception of propaganda? And so I'd bring it to our attention, because if we're going to put forward the requirement or the request that in the future we're going to be requesting that cannabis be legalised, as indeed it states in our name, you need to be aware of what the facts are, because if we're going to do things which are factually wrong and incorrect and bad for health, then I would be the first to say we shouldn't be here. So I seek leave to table the paper.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted.